our first ever virtual Ride Tug meeting. I really appreciate you guys coming out tonight to see us. It's great that we can do this virtually, but obviously we're really sad that we can't do it in our new space at the Providence Public Library. If you've known, but we just went undergoing a great renovation and wonderful spaces that we can meet in next time, hopefully in January if the situation allows it. But we're really happy to be with you tonight virtually, and we're going to get going. I just want to say a little bit about Providence Public Library. We just finished our renovation, and if you see us on Facebook, on Providence Public Library on Facebook, we had just had our virtual ribbon cutting where you can see all the different webinar spaces we have. I mean, face-to-face spaces we have for meetings, and it looks wonderful. It's a really modern library, and we can't wait to show it to you guys when we're able to. One of the things we do, if you're not aware, at the Providence Public Library, we do a lot of workforce training programs for teens and adults. And one of our most popular trainings is centered around data navigating and data visualization, which we call data navigators. So we have two different levels of intro to Tableau, and we've been doing that with teens, and we've been doing it with adults for the last several years too. And it's one of the most popular offerings, and it's a great first step for a lot of people getting involved in the field. In fact, Bill Rebello, who's co-presenting with me tonight, you originally were a graduate, right, Bill, in the program?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and now he's working.
Really
he's
good
in the program too. So we have a lot of success stories, and we're able to get the program going at the right time, and we created Ride Tug as a follow-up to our workforce programs. The first organization in Rhode Island where professionals who are using Tableau can meet and connect, and we can offer additional support to you guys too. And one other offering that we do in relation to our workforce programs is called the Data for Good project, where we connect professionals who use Tableau to help local nonprofits to create data visualizations, to help them make sense of the data that they have too. And the teens have just completed a summer workforce program where we actually employed 15 teenagers. They got career exploration, they built the resume, they learned presentation skills, and they learned how to use Tableau, and they helped one local nonprofit, What Cheer Flower Farm, and they also helped a nonprofit out of Seattle called Teen Read, and the teens did amazing work, and the nonprofits who didn't really understand Tableau at first really realized right away, like, wow, what amazing things they can do with data. And the nonprofits can take the data back and show funders or grantors all the progress that they're making in their programs too. And on the adult side too, Bill, we also do Data for Good. Yeah, we've had several projects, and we're just finishing one project now, right?
Yes. Do you want me to go into that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So, I think if you've been to our meetings, we talk about Data for Good at our meetings, but in general, it's where we work with nonprofit organizations around the area. We help them harness the power of their data so they can make more informed decisions in their quest to help their communities. So that's really what it's all about. So we're really making great contributions I think really good contributions. In fact, I was a little bit surprised. I created the list today, Chris, on exactly who he's helped out so far. And Rhode Island Department of Education, we worked with them for the Data for Good project, Providence Public Library, Institute for Nonviolence, Hope's Harvest, Rhode Island's Office of Innovation, Inspiring Minds of Rhode Island, and the one we're wrapping up right now, in fact, Monday, we're done with the project, is Women's Fund of Rhode Island. And with Women's Fund, it really does, it invests in women and girls through research and advocacy, granting and making strategic partnerships to design to achieve gender equality through systematic change. So they're really helping young women, women of any age, and they're supporting them. And it's a really good organization. And we're really happy to help them out. And check out their website in about a week or two. They're going to post our visualization there. So you'll see what we did. And I was really proud of the end result of it, because it was a little more complicated one where we had to use spatial files and a lot of different techniques to develop the viz. So it was a little bit more complicated. But if you want to join us on the next round, we don't know who that is yet. So you're saying to yourself, okay, if I get involved, am I going to be working on this 40 hours a week? No, really. I say 3 to 4 hours a week, including a half-hour weekly meeting, just so we can make sure we're on the right path. And it usually lasts 3 to 4 weeks, I'd say. So that's it. So usually the way it works is we come up and we get a team together to clean the data. That usually lasts the first week. And then when that's complete, we go into the visualization part of it. And people really create their own visualizations, whatever they want to interpret the data as, they can go out and create that, whatever they like. And then once we're done with that, probably a week or two, on the 4th week, we all get together and we show the visualizations. Oh, we're showing visualizations to the customer in between, but we show the visualizations to everybody and to the customer, and they start to pick and choose what they like. And we try to formulate a visualization that satisfies the requirement. So that's it, really. It's fun. Everybody has a good time with it, and I think it gives you a way to demonstrate your talent, and without working on the same thing you do every single day of the week. Gives you an outlet to try something new. So I encourage you to join and keep looking out there, because I blasted out. How are we going to collect that? I think we talked about that. If people want to volunteer, Chris, did we figure out a way?
I could put your email in the chat, Bill. Do you want to do that, or?
I thought Kelsey was going to have her email go out there.
I could put Kelsey in there too. Yeah, we can do.
Because Kelsey says she deals with it every day. Kelsey, I think that's where we left it. You're going to give Kelsey's email out.
I will. I'll do it right now.
We will, and let us know if you want to volunteer so we can create a list.
Okay, great. I'll put it in the chat. Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's great. And it's true what Bill says too. It's pretty amazing the work that we can do. And I know the nonprofits are really appreciative of all the work and helps them out too. Yeah. Well, thanks so much. Again, thanks for everyone for coming out tonight too. And so I can introduce our guest speaker tonight from Tableau. We've got Senior Project Manager, Nhan, who's going to talk to us tonight about updates in Tableau, and especially centered around relationship, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'll mute myself. And if you have questions as Thomas is speaking, there's a chat feature, and there's also a Q&A feature too. If you want to put questions in the Q&A, feel free to go there. And as the questions come out, Thomas, I can relay them to you.
Great, thank you.
All right, take it away. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Thomas Nunn. I am a Senior Product Manager here at Tableau. I am part of the team that developed the new data model that allowed you to analyze multiple tables. So they want to sort of give you a little overview of the motivation behind why we built the new data model, and also to do a pretty substantial demo. And I'll be open to questions. And if I go too fast, please help me slow me down, ask questions. I welcome that. Feel free to interrupt. So to begin with, today we talk about relationships. So Tableau shipped the relationship, or also fondly described by many customers, are called the noodle in Tableau in the release of 20.2. That came out in June or so. So with this new data model, you can actually now analyze data without really having to understand the join, and because Tableau do most of the heavy lifting for you. Before I begin, I want to show the standard Salesforce forward-looking statements. This is in regards to please do not make your purchasing decision based on what I described here. Mainly what I'll be talking about is really about using the product today. Okay, so let's begin. So with the new data model, the idea, there's something you can take away with today is about the new data model is allowing you to perform analysis across multiple tables of data. So Tableau, prior to the release of this new data model, when you perform bringing any tables into Tableau, you have to make the decision of what join to use. After you make the join decision, Tableau create one single underlying table. So I will go into details of what that multiple tables of data, what that means. So previously, when you combine, then you basically lead you to, you have to combine and then you analyze. Now the idea is that as you bring in more and more tables into Tableau, it becomes more of a circular workflow. You add new tables, you analyze your data, and then you can add more tables, you keep on analyzing data. It's not a two-step process where you combine table first and then you analyze the data. So what is relationship? if there are three things we describe relationship: is flexible, it's automatic, and it's contextual. Relationship is a flexible way of combining data from multiple tables for analysis. You can define matching fields between tables, and Tableau will generate the automatic joins for you based on the current state of your analysis. Relationship postpone join to the time and the context of analysis so that it preserves the correct level of detail in your data. So only query, and also relationship is only query, only tables that are needed for the fields in the viz. When you combine tables using relationship, you're pretty much create a custom flexible data source for every viz on a single data source. The idea behind relationship is that you can do less upfront data prep, you can analyze more data scenarios, and then you have greater trust in the result. So previously, when you combine tables, you have to pre-aggregate your data to a single level of detail using custom SQL or database view. Now with the ability of relationship, you can analyze multiple tables at the same time, and Tableau would automatically combine those relevant tables at the right level of details at analysis time. And we've heard from customer, they call this like ETL on the fly. With more scenario, so previously we pre-aggregate data, the detail would be lost. So when you bring a new table, it just gets blended in with the single table. So it limits the kind of purpose what your data source can serve. With the new data, now the data source can serve all the details because all the tables are kept at the native level of details. So this will enable you to answer unanticipated questions. You can do more use cases with a single data source. And the more flexible data source also allows you to have fewer data sources, so you have less maintenance. And then the hope is with this new data model, you can combine tables in a way that is not as tricky and error prone as before, because with join, you might unintentionally filter your data, or you might replicate your data, while relationship always preserve all the measure at the right level of details. So important values like money can never go missing. Another challenge with the manual data preparation that you do today, previously with join, is that sometimes you must pay close attention to the order of joins and aggregation. With relationship, Tableau handles this automatically for you. So let me describe a little more detail for you. Previously, when you join two tables into a third table, this isn't specific to relation, this is fundamental how join works. Joins are executed upfront with the data preparation, so all your subsequent analysis happens on this table. The table in the data in the new table actually forgot how it got there. So the value information, like the level of detail of the original table, is lost. Relationship combine and analyze tables simultaneously, generate the exact results, and set required for your specific analysis on the fly. So this has numerous benefits. So one is a smart aggregation, because relationship preserve the source level source tables in the original structure, and it automatically aggregate them to the native level of details. The second one is dynamic join. So unmatched values are handled, so you actually can see all of them. So we always show you the correct values all the time. So the new relationship actually can support multiple types of joins, inner join, left join, right join, outer join, and this all done automatically for you. With the contextual queries, Tableau also pulls the data from multiple tables that are relevant to your visualization. If you're analyzing a single table, no joins happen at all. But if you add more tables to your data source, there's no impact on query time because we only analyze the table that you're using in the viz. So it's a very custom, flexible way of data source for analyzing your viz in a single data source. So I will go into demo. I'll talk a lot about how we do the dimension domain control, how we keep all the measure value for you, how we do the correct totals. And I will go into any optimization step that you can do. So I'll switch over to Tableau. So to start with the new relationship, we will create a new data set. You're probably familiar with Superstore. With the new one, we call it the bookshop data. So imagine you're owner of a bookshop. You want to know information about the books you have. So we have a books table. So I'll just drag that in. So it should launch the query and get the results. So with this book data, then imagine every book is written by an author or multiple author. We don't know the result yet, so we're just dragging the result. And as you can tell, as you drag in the author table, it actually the noodles appear. And this noodle is how we relate tables together. And as I drop author, it will ask me what field do I want to relate this on. And in this case, I just want to relate on the author ID between the book table and the author table. So of the people who started using this, who had used the Tableau's join, then they would ask the question, how do I get a join? So joins and union can still to exist. The way you get to them is by double clicking on these rectangular box. And here now you can still do join. So for example, you can bring in the info table. And then here is the traditional experience of Tableau you're used to. Here that you have to decide whether you're using inner join or outer join. In this case, I probably want to use a left join, so I have all the book information that is joined with the info table. So within this, what we call this is the area where you can drop the physical table. As you add your physical table, you'll see that the number of columns increases. And then when you close this is what we call a logical table. And then these are the ones that Tableau keep separate. So when you perform join, Tableau continue to put that in a single table. But when you keep them as separate logical table, you can see that. And then notice when I right click on each of these tables, underneath the data grid actually changes to reflect what we see in that table. So to begin with, I'm going to add a few more tables just to help analyze the data. So books have authors, and then each book you can imagine have multiple editions. So the way to think about that is imagine a book can have a hardback or paperback, so you have different edition. And then each edition is published by at least one publisher. So each additional publisher. And then you can imagine when you go buy a book, you actually don't buy the book, you actually buy specific edition. So I have a sales table here, so I'll bring that in. So this is sales table for the first quarter. So as you can tell, I have additional sales for sales quarter 2 to 4. So you want to union them together, you can still do that. So I'll just select sales quarter 2 to 4. And then I'll just drag and I'll just drop this drop target here. And then Tableau automatically create the union underneath. And then when you do a quick survey, if you notice, logical table that has join underneath will have the symbol. Logical table that has union underneath will have the symbol. So let me quickly rename this to make it easy for myself. So let me add one more thing in that. So imagine if you were to buy a book like from Amazon, for example. Would you read the rating of a book? It's actually not rating by edition, but just rating by book in general. So I will drop that in, ratings, and maybe the award, the book have received award. In that case, I will drop the award table here as well. So I think that should be enough for us to start analyzing what this data looks like. So title, that's it. So to start with, when we go over the worksheet, notice this has changed quite a bit from what you used to see in Tableau. Previously in Tableau, you have a measure and a dimension pane. And now in the new Tableau, because of the fact that we're keeping multiple tables, that we actually keep the measures and dimensions of the same table together. So the way you can see that now is that if you actually drag out any measure, you see this little pop-up here. You see the measures and dimension. And if I choose to convert this measure to a dimension, I just drag it over this line. You can do this for any table. So each of these entries for each table. Another thing you might notice is that Tableau no longer has a number of records. So in a world where you have a single table, it makes sense to have one number of record. But in a world where you have multiple tables, you actually have a number of record per table. We call this the table count. So let's try this out. So imagine I have an author. I want to know how many books for each author has written. So let me start with a calculator field, just combining the author name. So Okay, so if I drag out the author name, and then you want to know how many books are author written, you can drag the book count over here. Now you can actually see how many books any author written, and then you can quickly sort that. And then this is something new in Tableau. So previously, when you bring table, Tableau usually do inner join. With the new relationship, by default, first we always show you all the relevant author, all the author in the author table. Second, when we bring in any additional data, we do not drop the measure, the dimension value. So author who has not written a book, you can actually see them here. So there are a total of 7 authors who have not written a book. And how about you ask the question, flip it the other way? You can also say, of a typical book, how many authors are in there? So I'll just drag out the book, and I go back to the author table and just drag out author. Then here you have the number author. So something new is interesting here. So you notice that we added a null. So these are the author who have not yet written a book. So previously in Tableau, when you bring out a measure and it doesn't, when you bring out measure and it does not get activated to a specific dimension, it gets dropped. In the new relationship, we actually show you this. So now you have a way of easily tell that if you have any like dirty data or some parts messy data, then you actually can tell that easily by showing the correct nulls. If you don't like to see the null, it's pretty easy. You can just exclude it, and then it will remove that from the view. So just briefly scanning here, we pretty much see that every book has 1 author. So that is something that we built deliberately into this database so that we can illustrate some points here. So let's see, let's go back to the author table. Let's drag out author. Let's drag out the number of books. And then so we know each book has multiple edition and then potential multiple edition, and each edition is published by a publisher. So we can also count, like for a typical author, how many publishers has that author used. So I will turn on the text here. So let's sort this. So just quickly here, we saw that we can see that then Lynn Dentacat had written 8 books and used 2 different publishers. And then as we scroll down, and we notice Robert Murlovsky actually written a book, but no publisher. So maybe Robert Murlovsky is a self-published his book. So whenever you bring in Tableau now, whenever you bring in a measure, we always keep those measure value. And at the same time, we also keep the dimension value to see that. So, so now that we know that there are some authors who have used 2 publishers, so let me flip the question the other way around. So how we do totals correctly now. So instead of doing how many publisher per author, you can bring out like a publishing house here. So here, if you bring out authors now, you bring out author count and click on the text. So here, if we just visually add all this up, let me do it quickly. Let's see, 8 plus 8 plus 18. So 16 plus 18 plus 10 plus 1. So it's actually 61. Maybe I did it correctly. So 18 plus 16 plus, let me clear this, that's the problem. 16 plus 18 plus 10 plus 1. Oh, geez. I think right now, I think it should be 45 if you just visually added all this up. And then now, but if you use Tableau, you use the analysis, you actually do total. That's not the answer you will get. Because we actually keep underneath, we actually keep the author table around so that you can actually see that. So if you were to visually sum up all these numbers together, you get 45. But in actuality, there are only 41 authors. So you can see this here. Let's see quickly. It should be 41. Oh yeah, 41 marks. So we know there for sure 41 author. And then when you total, even though there are authors who use multiple publishing house, Tableau knows how to dedupe them. So you always get the correct total. So the question becomes now, we also know there are 8 authors that have no publishing house, but we know that there were 7 authors who actually didn't publish. And the reason is the eighth author is the one who published, but didn't use a publishing house. So you can sort of see this information now with view data. So you click a view data today, it's quite different than what you used to see. So previously in the view data, you see summary view and you see full data. And the reason you see full data is because we have one underlying table. With the new data model now, you actually have summary and full data. You actually summary and also the separate tables where they actually aggregate to. So in this case, I selected this mark and I know the 8 author names that actually aggregated to here. Let's go back to the data source a little bit and try to understand this. So what I have is I have publisher and I have author here. And then the way Tableau, in order to get the number of author per publisher, it actually traverses to aggregate number of author to book, to edition, to publisher. But Tableau currently, based on customer feedback, we actually don't show you what books and what editions were used, but we only show you the publisher and author. If you want to see information that help you diagnose these marks, the way to do that is to inform Tableau that you want to see that. So the way to do that is that you can just drag book count, and then you drag edition, and you drag it with the tooltip, and we need to go back to here and go to view data. And now, not only do we show you the author table we saw previously, we also show you all the books that actually belong to this mark. So now we actually identify there's one book that has no publishing house. And then we can also see all the edition if there were multiple editions of the books. We will see that here as well. So to recap, one is Tableau show you all the dimension values. Second thing is we never drop the measure values. Third thing is where we do the aggregating total correctly. And then the fourth thing is that you can use view data to help you diagnose your mark. So I'm gonna stop here a little bit and see if I have any questions before I dive into a little bit more details of how to analyze multi-table analysis. Are we all good? Are we ready to go on to the next piece? Okay.
There's one question in the chat where where do you see the 41 marks?
The 41 marks. So let me go back. So here you actually see that on the very lower left corner. So it actually says 41 marks, 41 rows by 1 column. So we know for sure there are only 41 authors. So when you actually aggregate total number here, you actually see 41. Whereas if you separately aggregate this together, let me try this again. So that's 16 plus, geez, clear. So 16 plus 18 plus 10 plus 1. Should be 45, yeah, should be 45. If you just visually sum this up with 45. So what that means is that basically we saw this earlier, there were some authors that have multiple publishing houses, and Tableau doesn't know enough not to duplicate these results anymore. So the total is always the correct total because we have the underlying table. So the next question is, how do we analyze multiple tables results? So let's say as a publisher, I want to know what's the expected revenue for the books, and then how much I actually make for each book. Let's start with that. So the way to think about it is, anytime an edition is made, we have the print run size. So I guess I will start with starter calculator field, expected revenue. So I would just start with print run size. This is in 1,000. And then we know how much each edition costs. So we just got the price here. So this is expected revenue. But if we actually looked at the actual sales transaction, by the way, you can also see these tables. If you're curious, you can just click on here. You can just go to the sales table here. So for each sale, there is a potential for a discount. But as you can see here, there is no price of the book. The price of the book actually exists at the addition table. So in order for us to actually bring that value down to sales, we need to use an LD. So the way to do that is just easily create a new calculated field. We call it the full price of the book. And then the way I do that, I just fix it on ISBN. ISBN, do a min of the price of the book. Now we actually have the full price of the book by fixing it to sales. We're actually allowing you to bring the price at the level of detail of the addition into the sales table. So now we actually know the full price of the book. Now I know the actual sale price of the book. Now it's easy to calculate. So we just easily just type full price times 1 minus discount. So in order for us to do this sort of comparison between table, we need to actually fix it using the LD expression so that you can actually bring the one measure from one table to another table. Now the next one is going back to earlier. Now for each edition, I can calculate how much the actual revenue from the book. So you can just go here. Now it's pretty easy to do. Actual revenue. So you would just say some, I think, let me see. I'll just fix it just in case. Fix it to book ID by edition. Sum of the sales price. So now let's start with the addition. So addition is the key for addition is ISBN. So we know the expected revenue, and then we have the actual revenue. Now you can actually compare which book had low expectation but sell a lot versus which book had a high expectation, how much money would be made, but actually a very low sale. So the way now in order for you to do sort of multi-table analysis, you still need to be able to bring information from one table to another table using the LD expression. So LD expression are not going away. It's actually allow you to transfer the measure from one table to another. So I'm going to stop here a little bit and entertain any questions. Okay.
We're good.
Okay, so I'll go on to the next step. So then I'm curious about how well the sales book, is that based on the rating of customers? So that's easy question to answer. So we can just drag out the rating. So for the rating, we don't want to sum the rating, but we want to get the average rating. So I just switch over here and then just go to the drop-down menu. Try it again. We go to average rating. Now with the average rating of book. Now in Tableau, I'm not sure you know, a little tip. If you know for sure you always use rating as average, you can actually go into the right mouse, go over the context menu. You can change the default property. You can change the aggregation to average. So I can imagine if I were to drop this, then I would drag out rating again. And by default, it will always use average rating. So that's pretty easy way of sort of letting Tableau know that this is the aggregation you want to use all the time. So let's see if there's any correlation. We can just quickly drag rating. So it looks like the sale of the book really has no correlation with rating itself. So maybe the other way to look at this is that ratings are actually done by consumer, but there's also the awards. We wonder if the expert opinion, so these are the people who give awards, has any correlation with rating itself. So we can always drag the number of award. And that's pretty easy to do. So just drag the award count over here. And it turns out that it's actually expert agree with the general rating, but it also does not determine the actual sale of any particular book. So here, what I have looking here is by ISBN, issued by different edition of the book. Maybe what I really need to do is by actual book name itself. So I can just replace this in this IBN. I just drop it in the title. And notice Tableau just immediately update. So going back to the data source here, when I did all the analysis, I'm analyzing the edition table, but I can just easily substitute that field from the table here, and Tableau know how to aggregate the data correctly. So this is the beauty of the new relationship, is that you don't have to use join to sort of lock in your information. You can just easily switch from one table to another. But if you want to bring row level count from one table to another, you do need to use LOD. So I'll stop here for a second and check in if anybody can keep up following me. I know this is going to quite a bit of weed here.
There was one question actually from Bill. Does Tableau have a free online video training on relationships?
Yes, yeah, you should be able to see quite a few on YouTube as well as Tableau site itself. And we also have substantial documentation that's sort of explaining the differences between relationship, between join and blending. Those are the very common things we've heard from customers.
Great, thanks.
Yep. The other one I've also heard quite a bit is how do I know when to use relationship versus join versus blend? So the guidance is that if you have data sources today using join and they work, continue using that. But as you create new data sources, consider using relationship, because that's probably the easiest, because one, it doesn't lock you into your data source. Two, is that it's very flexible, just adapt to your analysis. And then if you still want to use join, you can still use that. Like in this case, if I look at the data source that I show you here, join is still available. It's not going away. It will continue to be supported, but it just can support it within the single logical table. Now, between blending and relationship, that's an interesting question, because in blending, we have a primary data source and a secondary data source. And the primary data source, it always left join to the secondary data source. So in blending, you always control what domain that you have by using the primary data source. In relationship, the way you determine that is by using measure. So let's try an example. So let's drag out author. And then I want to see which award did each of these author won. So notice something here. When I first drag out author name, I see the whole long list of author. And in fact, I see the 41 author as expected. But as soon as I drag out award, the list contracted quite substantially. And it only contracted to author who actually had an award. So this is sort of get at the underlying how relationship work. So the first thing we did is that first we query your database to get the domain value of the dimension. As you bring in more dimension, we do inner join so that we filter out the sparse data. And then in this case, we filter out for author who did not have an award. But you can actually recover that. So imagine if I were to see, is there a correlation with the award that they have with how many hours they spend writing per day, right? So if you just bring out here again, and notice we bring back all the authors that we filtered out originally. Because when you bring out a measure, the measure actually determines what we don't drop measure value. So in order to not drop measure value, we bring back the full set of authors. So sorry about that. So yeah, so you can actually sort, and you can actually see some author with no award, and they can also see some author with award. And the way you see that is by bringing out the measure. Another easy way to do that is that you can also bring author count. If you bring that in, even though its author count is 1 for each of them, but you can control now which author you have. So that sort of gives you a little taste of how Tableau is doing underneath of what with the relationship. So the way we do it first, we bring out the relationship, we bring out the dimension first. And then based on the measure that you have, we do a left join. So previously with blending, you always have to put all your measure into your primary data source or whatever you want to control. You put that in your primary data source and you blend with your secondary data source. Now with relationship, it's much simpler. So we always use your measure to determine what domain is we should show you. Because the first thing we always honor is that we don't drop measure value. So by doing that, by leveraging that trick, you can sort of control what domain you'll see. There's also additional new feature that we have since the release, because of the fact that we know that with the new relationship, you'll have more and more complex data model. And then be able to locate these will be quite difficult. So we actually added a new filter button. So with this filter button now, you can actually show you all the field that you created. So when we do a calculated field, it's easy to show, you just drop by C. Or you can only show by, for example, you can also see by dimension, for example. And now notice that beneath the dimension measure line, you notice there's no measure. So we just sort of filter that out. Or you can see measure only. And then these are the measures you see. So the idea behind this is that the expectation is that you'll have more and more fields. So with this to help you filter for field that you want to see and get at them very quickly. So with that said, I'm gonna try a little bit, do more comparison across tables, or I can answer questions. So I'm opening up for the floor. We have about 8 minutes, no, 13 minutes left. So happy to entertain more questions.
Yeah, nothing in the chat right now. So if you want to show some examples, that'd be great.
So I'll show you a few more things. So let's see.
Oh, there is a question. Sorry. So the question comes from David. Is there any way to see the SQL Tableau in using? Also, can we see how action filters impact the query?
Yes. So I don't have it installed, but if you go to GitHub, you can actually find the Tableau performance log viewer. Just download that. And then you can actually monitor what query Tableau is issuing. Previously, because Tableau has only one single table, you only see a ginormous query. So now with Tableau being more adaptive and multiple tables, we actually issue more subqueries. So that the hope is that by not joining all these tables together, you can actually analyzing more data. We only bring in the relevant data. So we issue multiple subquery. So with the performance log here, you should be able to see this, see what query the Tableau is generating. Can you repeat the second question?
Sure. Oh yeah, sure. Can we see how action filters impact the query?
Action filter. You should be able, yeah, if you see, I don't have the log view again, but if you create action filter and you apply, you will see the query that Tableau generate as well. So you can always use a log viewer. Once to measure your performance, how Tableau is doing. Two is that you can actually record what query Tableau is issuing to your database.
Okay, so far that's about it for questions.
Right. So yeah, now I'm gonna start going to the weed a little bit more now. Let's try something here. Let's see. In terms of award, we want to know, do the expert opinion agree with the general public, right? So the way to do that is that we look at award when we look at the rating. So let's go back to the rating, which is done by per book, right? Let me see. Oh, no, it's in a separate ratings table. I remember now. So just generate rating. So we know the average rating. So notice one more thing. So previously, before I brought in rating, we had 12 rows. But as soon as I brought in ratings here, we end up with 13 rows. And once again, we introduce null. This is the same thing that the first thing that's relationship is we do not drop measure value. So these are the ratings to books that did not win an award. So you can tell here is sort of in the middle. So the general audience compared to award winners is sort of right smack dab in the middle. There's no, I think the person who created this is deliberate in doing that. So let's think about how do we break this down by, let's see, books that have no award versus book with award. So the way to do that is that you can just create sets. So for each book, you can just create a set. And let's call this set books with awards. And then you just go to condition. We just say count of award. So is greater than 0. We can create a set. So if you just drop this here, you'll see all the line change color. So notice book with no awards are right here. So it's an easy way to check that. And then you can also create another set of books without award. Again, using the same condition. The formula. So in this case, the count of award is equal to 0. So this would be the flip side of that. So you can see here, if you want to drag that to color, you see only the middle one is highlighted. Okay. So that now we start analyzing, do book have awards also have sales? So so the way to look, so that's basically another set. Let's try to create that as well. Let's create a set condition books with sales. So it's the same thing as before. So instead of, again, notice I do not no longer use the number of record. I just use the count of sales. It's greater than 0. And then also, so let's try and analyze this. So let's start with, let's say book title, and then books with sales. And then we only see books with sales. And then you can, actually I can put it on size. It's easier to sort. So notice books with no sales that are out, so much bigger, so easy to see. And let's try let's see, let's do something simple, books with sales and book with awards. So so first we started with a set, and then we want to count the number of books with sales. Then we create calculated fields. So let me see. The way to do that is that if and only if books have sales, you do 1, otherwise 0. Number of books sales, right? And then you can also do the number of books with award. So just do that. Create calculation. Number of books with awards. So now we can actually see, let's do it by author. So let's by author, we can see the number of books that they have awards and number of books with sales. And let's put that to text. So we can go back to the original table that we had previously. Is that we can total number of books. So Bianca Thompson, she wrote 3 books, and all 3 books had sales, and all 3 books had award. But you can also find people like Lynn Dentacat, for example. She wrote 8 books. All 8 books had sales, but only 1 book with award. So these are the type of analysis that you can do between tables. Again, that's the beauty of the relationship because of the fact we keep tables separate. You can do these sort of comparison and make it easier for yourself to do. And then and again, go back to the Robert Malofsky. Malofsky wrote a book, didn't have any sales, and didn't have any award.
Oh, Thomas, we got a question. Why is the calculated field command IIF with 2 I's?
So IIF, the way IIF work is, let me go back. It's basically it's a shortcut for this. So IIF is same thing as if and only if. So if books with awards, then 1, else 0, and then n. It's the same statement as that. So it's just IIF is a quick way of doing that. So I'm on the team that actually created all these sort of language, so I sort of know the little shortcut. So this is a simple way of just doing that. So you want to count things very quickly, easily, then just use shortcut like IIF.
Great. And we had another question too. Can we have a filter having or relationship? For example, the view contains location and assigned underscore location, etc. columns. I want to, this person writing says, I want to see all records based on the user selection. For example, location underscore parameters equals location capital or location underscore parameters equals assigned underscore location. You can see it in the chat. It may make sense to look at.
Okay, let me see if I can get to the chat.
Yeah, if you look at the chat. Probably it's easier if you read it.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. Oh, can we have a filter having or relationship? Let me think about that. Okay, for example, a set contain location. So when you're saying or, so it's either or. So the way I would do that is very simple. I'm glad you asked that question. So the way I use that is that so depending on what you want to use filter to do. Generally, I prefer set over filter because filter tend to remove the rows. So when you actually do normalization, you actually cannot do that. Whereas set actually preserves the value and it allows you to do in and out very easily. So you can imagine if I were to combine these 2 sets together, I should get the same result. Let me show you. So let's create this, create combined set. So in this case, I want, let's see, I want to see all members of both sets. I just create that. So if I were to say, let's look at all the books. Let's start with publisher. So let's start with publisher. Oh, excuse me. And then I want to see count of books. Now, if I want to see books without award, I can just drag in color. So you can see this value right now, right? But if I drag in the books with this combined set, everything should be, it should be the same as before. So the only thing is that we remove, I think, let me see. This is a book without publisher. Yeah, this is the same book that Robert has. So in case I want to see that again, I just go to author table and drag in tooltip. And I think this is the same person. Yep, Robert Bolowski. So yeah, so if you want to use an or situation, I would suggest using some sort of combine, create one set for one condition, and that's set for the other condition, and just use a combined set.
Great. Well, Thomas, we're just, yeah, thanks. Mary says, thank you. Thomas, thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation. It was great, really clear. And yeah, and I get Bill, I know Bill Rubello, he's been talking about relationship for the last few weeks too. And Bill, he found it really easy to learn too, right? On your own. Oh, wait, Bill's muted, sorry.
Yeah, and that's why I asked the question so people would know there's help out there if you want to go a little more slowly and methodically through the information. There's information on YouTube, and also Tableau has a couple of pretty good videos on it. They actually use that book data set to explain it, and you can go through it a little bit slower. But I think Thomas gave us a great presentation on how it all works, so it's good. Good job.
If you need to, yep, thank you. If you need to reach me, I am at this email address. I'm also available on Twitter as well. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to respond to questions. So if you have any feature requests, if Relation doesn't fulfill your need there, let me know that as well.
It's great. Thanks, Thomas. Thank you for taking the time, Thomas, to talk to us tonight. It was great. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's great. And everyone, thanks for coming out tonight. And thank you, Bill, for helping out. Thanks, Allison Jensen, for hosting. Thanks, Kelsey, too, for organizing everything tonight. Yeah, well, I guess, Bill, we'll look to see if we can organize our next meeting in January. Fingers crossed we can do it face-to-face with food, but if not, we'll do it virtually again. Too.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, and also, if people have ideas on the format for the virtual meeting, it'd be helpful, because we're thinking if we have to do it virtual in January, we'll probably have a tips and tricks section for 15-20 minutes where we'll ask for volunteers to come in. So that's why it's important to give us your email address so we can kind of poll you and see if you want to volunteer for 5 or 10 minutes to do a show us a shortcut or tip and trick.
That'd be great. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, thanks for recommending that.
Yeah.
All right. All right. On that note, let's say wish everyone a great evening. Thanks again for coming out thank you, Thomas, again.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, thank you all for attending.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.